Christmas. The very word feels warm. It brings to mind the glow of lights, the laughter of children, the scent of pine, and the quiet joy that fills our homes every December. We decorate trees, we hang stockings, we give gifts, and, without thinking much about it, we join in traditions that millions around the world share. But my friends, have you ever stopped and wondered why? Why do we put a tree inside the house? Why do we hang socks by the fireplace? Why is there an old man in a red suit who somehow knows everyone's name? These may sound like simple questions, but the answers are not simple at all. Because the story of Christmas is not just about one night in Bethlehem. It is the story of centuries, of faith and myth, of joy and hardship, of old customs reborn in new ways. Every tradition we know hides a memory, a piece of history passed from one generation to the next. Some are ancient, born in the cold of northern winters. Others were shaped by empires, kings, poets, and even shopkeepers. And through it all, one truth remained. Every December, people have always searched for light, a way to bring warmth into the darkest time of the year. So tonight, let us go back together, to the fires of the old world, to the songs of the first carolers, to the moment when an ordinary day became something sacred. This is the real story of Christmas. Before there were churches, before there were carols or Christmas trees, there was winter. The cold came early in the north, the sun disappeared. Days grew shorter, nights endless and silent. For the ancient people of Europe, this was a time of fear and of faith. They watched the sky carefully, and every year, around December 21st, the sun seemed to stop moving. The winter solstice, the darkest day of the year. It was the moment when light was at its weakest, but also when hope returned. Because from that day on, the sun began to rise higher again. To celebrate this turning point, the northern tribes gathered for 12 long days. They called it Yule, a festival of fire, feasting, and survival. They slaughtered animals they could not feed through the winter, brewed strong ale, and burned a massive Yule log that glowed for days. Its fire symbolized life itself, the promise that the sun would return. And inside their homes, they brought in evergreens, pine, fir, and holly, symbols of endurance and eternal life. Green in a world of white, life in the heart of death. As one Norse saying goes, the fire dies, the frost bites, but the evergreen stands. To these people, keeping green branches in winter was more than decoration. It was faith. Faith that light would come again. Over centuries, Yule blended with new beliefs and new faiths. Its symbols, fire, feasts, and evergreens, traveled across lands and languages, eventually finding their way into what we now call Christmas. So when you see a glowing Christmas tree in the corner of your living room, remember, it began as a torch of hope, lit thousands of years ago in the frozen silence of the northern world. 2,000 years ago, in a small town called Bethlehem, a story began. A story that would shape the hearts of millions for centuries to come. A young woman named Mary and her husband Joseph arrived in the town on a cold night. There was no room for them in any inn, so they took shelter in a stable among animals and straw. And there, as the Gospels tell us, a child was born. His name was Jesus. The story of his birth, the Nativity, became the heart of Christian belief. It was simple, humble, yet filled with wonder. Angels announced peace on earth. Shepherds came to see. Wise men followed a star from the east, bringing gold, frankincense, and myrrh, gifts fit for a king. As the Gospel of Matthew writes, "When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. That star, that joy, that night became symbols of hope and light. But strangely, the Bible never tells us when it happened. There is no date, no mention of December. For the early Christians, birthdays were not celebrated. It was faith, not calendars, that mattered most. So how did December 25th become the date we all know? To answer that, we must look to Rome, an empire of marble temples, soldiers, and countless gods. Long before Jesus was born, Romans already celebrated great festivals in December: Saturnalia, a week of wild feasts and gift-giving, and Sol Invictus, the birthday of the unconquered sun, honored on, yes, December 25th. It was the darkest time of year, when light began to grow again after the winter solstice. People lit candles, sang songs, and celebrated the return of the sun. So, when Christianity spread through the empire, the Church chose not to erase these ancient customs, but to give them new meaning. The old celebration of the sun became the celebration of the Son. Not the sun in the sky, but the Son of God. As one early Christian writer said, "He who made the sun was born on this day." And so, December 25th became the day to honor his birth, a bridge between heaven and earth, between the old world and the new. From that moment, every candle lit in the dark was not only for the sun that warms the sky, but for the light that warms the soul. After the birth in Bethlehem, the faith spread. Christianity grew across lands, from desert to forest, from empire to village. And with it, Christmas found a home in many hearts. But as the centuries passed, something fascinating happened. The sacred day began to take on two faces. Inside the churches, silence, candlelight, prayer. Outside, music, feasts, and laughter that lasted for 12 long days. This was medieval Europe, around the year 1000. A world without modern calendars or clocks, but with deep rhythms of faith and season. When winter came, the fields slept, and people finally rested. It was time to celebrate, not just Christ's birth, but survival itself. The church held solemn masses to honor the Nativity. Hymns echoed through stone walls, sung in Latin, pure and slow. It was beauty in devotion, voices rising like incense. Yet, beyond those church doors, another Christmas began. A Christmas of streets, wine, and wild joy. Villagers dressed in costumes, played flutes and drums, sang carols in their own languages, not Latin. They danced in snow and candlelight, sharing food, ale, and stories by the fire. The poor went door to door, singing and asking for gifts, bread, drink, or coins. Sometimes they were kind, sometimes demanding. If refused, they might play tricks on the rich, a reminder that for one night, the world could turn upside down. In many places, people even crowned a mock ruler, a peasant who became the Lord of Misrule, commanding games, laughter, and chaos for the 12 days of Christmas. One medieval writer described it this way: "Every house is filled with mirth. The poor make merry, the rich give freely. The world forgets its sorrow for a little while." But not everyone rejoiced. Some priests warned that too much pleasure would drown the holy meaning of the day. Still, year after year, the people could not resist. They needed light, warmth, and laughter as much as prayer. And so, Christmas became both sacred and wild, a holy season where heaven met earth, where angels sang in the church, and laughter answered back from the village below. The Middle Ages gave us a Christmas both sacred and wild, a season of prayer and play. But as Europe entered the Age of Reformation, everything began to change. By the 1500s, a great wave was sweeping across the continent, a cry for purity, for truth, for reform. Many Christians believed the church had strayed too far from its roots. They wanted to return to Scripture, to faith stripped of superstition and excess. Among them rose the Protestant reformers, Luther, Calvin, and many others, each calling for renewal. But in the midst of this spiritual storm, Christmas, once a day of peace, became a battlefield of belief. To some, the feasts and dances, the lord of misrule and drunken laughter, looked less like worship and more like sin. One Puritan preacher thundered, "This day of mirth and madness is not found in the gospel of Christ." And so began one of the strangest chapters in Christmas history, the banning of Christmas itself. In England, during the 1600s, the Puritans gained power. They believed Christmas was a Catholic invention, a holiday corrupted by pagan customs. To them, the true Christian should pray quietly, not feast loudly. In 1647, under Oliver Cromwell's rule, Parliament outlawed the holiday. Shops were ordered to stay open, churches were told to remain closed. Soldiers even patrolled the streets, seizing roasted meats, puddings, and decorations, anything that looked like Christmas joy. The people were stunned. Imagine, no carols, no gatherings, no bells. But silence could not kill the season. In secret, families still lit candles. They still whispered songs of hope. Behind closed doors, they baked small loaves, hid wreaths in cupboards, and prayed not just for Christ, but for the return of Christmas itself. And when the monarchy returned in 1660, so did Christmas, louder, brighter, as if the world had been holding its breath for years. But the shadow of that ban lingered. Even across the ocean, in the Puritan colonies of New England, the same strict rules took hold. In Boston, Christmas was outlawed in 1659. Anyone caught celebrating was fined. A Boston preacher declared, "Men dishonor Christ more in the 12 days of Christmas than in all the 12 months of the year." Yet, human hearts are stubborn and hopeful. In taverns and small villages, people began to sing again, quietly at first, then with courage. Because you can forbid a feast, you can silence a hymn, but you cannot stop the longing for light in the heart of winter. The long shadow of the Puritans slowly faded, and as the 19th century dawned, Europe, and especially England, was ready for a softer Christmas. After centuries of bans, arguments, and wild revelry, people longed for something different, a Christmas not of chaos, but of kindness. The world was changing. The Industrial Revolution was filling cities with smoke and sorrow. Families were separated by work. The poor filled the streets. And yet, in the midst of hardship, people began to dream again, of home, of warmth, of peace. And then came a writer. His name was Charles Dickens. In 1843, he published a small book, A Christmas Carol. It told the story of a bitter old man named Ebenezer Scrooge, who hated Christmas, who mocked generosity, who cared only for money. But one cold night, Scrooge was visited by 3 ghosts of Christmas past, present, and yet to come. And by morning, his heart was changed forever. When he opened his window, the snow was falling softly, and he whispered, "I will honor Christmas in my heart, and try to keep it all the year." That line, simple, human, full of hope, became the soul of a new Christmas spirit. Dickens's story spread like candlelight. It taught that Christmas is not about feasting or wealth, but about compassion, forgiveness, and love. The poor were not to be ignored. They were part of the family of humanity. All across England, people began to celebrate again, not with drunkenness or disorder, but with family, music, and generosity. And while Dickens shaped the heart of Christmas, Queen Victoria and her husband Prince Albert gave it its form. Albert was German, and from his homeland came the Christmas tree. In 1848, a newspaper published an illustration of the royal family standing together, smiling beside their tree. Candles glowed on its branches, gifts lay beneath it, and all of Britain fell in love. Soon, every home wanted a tree, every child waited for gifts, and every mother and father found joy in giving. From the palace to the poorest street, Christmas became a season of family and goodness, a time to forgive, to gather, to believe again in the power of kindness. And so, through the pen of a writer and the image of a queen, Christmas was reborn, not as a carnival of noise, but as a celebration of heart. He wears a red suit, he has a white beard and a laugh that can warm even the coldest night. He rides through the sky with reindeer, carrying gifts for every child who still believes. But where did he come from? Who is Santa Claus? His story begins not in the North Pole, but in the warm lands of ancient Anatolia, nearly 1,700 years ago. There lived a man named Nicholas of Myra, a humble bishop in what is now Turkey. He was known for his kindness, his deep faith, and for giving to the poor in secret. One old story tells that a poor man had 3 daughters, but no dowry to marry them. In the dark of night, Nicholas threw 3 bags of gold through the man's window, so the daughters could live with dignity. Some say the gold fell into stockings drying by the fire, and from that, the custom of hanging stockings was born. After his death, people called him Saint Nicholas, the wonder worker. Churches were built in his honor, sailors prayed to him for protection at sea, and children loved him most of all. Every year on December 6th, his feast day was celebrated, a time of giving, laughter, and sweets. As his legend spread north across Europe, Saint Nicholas met new cultures, new languages, and even older winter traditions. In the Netherlands, he became Sinterklaas, a tall, dignified man in a bishop's robe, riding a white horse across the rooftops, carrying a big red book filled with names, the good and the naughty. Children left their shoes by the door, hoping to find sweets inside the next morning. When Dutch settlers sailed to the New World, they brought Sinterklaas with them, and in the melting pot of America, his name changed to Santa Claus. But America gave Santa more than a new name. It gave him a new heart. In 1823, a New York professor named Clement Clark Moore wrote a poem for his children, A Visit from St. Nicholas. It began with the words we still know today. "'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse." This poem transformed the saint into something new, a jolly, round, and joyful bringer of gifts, arriving in a sleigh pulled by 8 tiny reindeer. It gave us the image of Santa we still carry in our hearts. Later, in the mid-1800s, an artist named Thomas Nast drew Santa for Harper's Weekly. He gave him his red suit, his flowing beard, and, most importantly, a home at the North Pole. From there, Santa became a symbol of generosity and cheer. Part legend, part miracle, part marketing, perhaps, but all heart. By the time the 20th century arrived, he was everywhere, in songs, in stories, in shop windows, and most of all, in children's dreams. And maybe that's the true magic. Because Santa Claus, in the end, is not about one man, but about the spirit that lives inside all of us, the joy of giving without expecting anything in return. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. By the early 1900s, Christmas had already been reborn, a holiday of home, kindness, and joy. But something new was about to happen. For the first time in history, Christmas would find its voice through music, movies, and marketing. And that voice would echo across the entire world. When the first radios began to hum in living rooms, Christmas songs filled the air. They spoke of family, peace, snow, and love, simple things that people longed for, especially in hard times. In 1942, songwriter Irving Berlin wrote a song for a movie called Holiday Inn. It was sung by Bing Crosby, and it began softly, "I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know." That song touched the hearts of soldiers far from home during World War II. It reminded them of warmth, of families waiting, of everything they were fighting for. White Christmas became the best-selling song of all time, and for millions, it became the sound of hope. After the war, people longed for comfort, and Hollywood delivered. In 1946, director Frank Capra gave the world a gift, a film called It's a Wonderful Life. It told of a man, George Bailey, who felt his life was small and meaningless, until one Christmas night, an angel showed him how deeply his life had touched others. The film whispered a timeless truth, that the smallest acts of kindness can change the world. For many, watching that movie became its own Christmas ritual. It wasn't just entertainment, it was a reminder of grace. At the same time, department stores and advertisers saw something too, that the spirit of Christmas could be shared through gifts. Posters glowed with red and gold, shops played carols on every street, and Santa Claus, once a saint, became the smiling face of generosity in every window. By the mid-20th century, Santa was everywhere. In Coca-Cola ads, parades, and shop displays, the colors of Christmas, red, green, gold, and white, became a global language of joy. And though some critics said it had become too commercial, others saw something deeper, that the songs, stories, and sparkle were simply new ways of saying love. The world had changed. The radio had brought music to our homes, but now, in the mid-20th century, something new flickered to life: the television. And with it, Christmas entered a brand new stage. Families gathered around glowing screens, their faces lit by the soft blue light. Every December, special programs filled the air, animated tales, songs, and miracles in moving color. In 1962 came Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol, the first animated holiday special. And then, one by one, others followed. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Frosty the Snowman, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, and How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Each one told the same message in a new way, that kindness, courage, and belief can melt even the coldest heart. And then, in 1965, a small, humble cartoon aired for the first time, A Charlie Brown Christmas. No flashy animation, no loud music, just a quiet boy asking, "What is Christmas really about?" And when his friend Linus stepped into the spotlight and recited words from the Gospel of Luke, "For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord," there was silence. And then, tears. For the first time, a cartoon on national television spoke directly to the heart of faith and to the simple, sacred peace behind all the noise. That moment became immortal. Only 3 years later, in 1968, Christmas went somewhere it had never gone before, beyond the Earth. On Christmas Eve, the astronauts of Apollo 8 orbited the moon. As they looked down upon our blue planet, they opened the Bible and read aloud to the entire world, "In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth." The words echoed through static, across oceans and continents, carrying the quiet message of unity and awe. That night, the first Christmas beyond Earth reminded humanity how small we are, and how connected we've always been. Decades passed. Screens grew smaller and closer. From television to computers, from computers to phones. And once again, Christmas adapted. The 21st century brought online shopping, digital greetings, and a new phrase, Cyber Monday. With just one click, a gift could travel across the world. Families video called across oceans, sharing dinner through screens. And though some said it made Christmas less real, perhaps it did the opposite, reminding us that distance doesn't matter when love finds a way to connect. From church bells to radio, from television to space, from snowy windows to digital screens, Christmas has always changed its shape, but never its soul. For no matter how we send our love, through letters, songs, signals, or screens, the message remains the same. Peace on earth and goodwill to all. Throughout history, Christmas has worn many faces. It has been sacred and joyful, forbidden and reborn. It has crossed empires, oceans, even space itself. From ancient bonfires to glowing city lights, from the humble manger to the warmth of our homes today, the story has changed its shape, but never its soul. At its heart, Christmas has always been about light. The light of kindness, the light of forgiveness, the light we share when we reach out to one another. Every candle, every song, every gift, they are all small echoes of one simple truth, that love, no matter how quiet, has the power to warm the world. And even now, in our busy modern lives, when everything feels louder, faster, the spirit of Christmas whispers the same gentle words. Slow down. Look around. Be kind. Because Christmas isn't just one day on the calendar. It's a feeling we carry, a spark that never fades. So tonight, wherever you are, if you feel that warmth in your heart, you are part of this story. And maybe, my friend, that's what Christmas has always meant to be. Merry Christmas, and to all, a gentle night.